I'm Geoffrey Beer. I'm a curator at the museum, and I'm currently working flat out to prepare our wonderful Charles Keeping exhibition.
So, what is it that drew you to exhibiting Charles Keeping's pictures in the Heath Robinson Museum?
I've long been a fan of his work. He's an innovative artist, unlike anyone else who was working at the time. He's an important illustrator for the period that followed on immediately from Heath Robinson. And he'd never had a one-man exhibition in a public gallery. So I felt it was important to show his work, show people another unique talent comparable with Heath Robinson.
And how much is Charles Keeping remembered for his black and white drawings, such as lugubrious body snatchers, rather than for more coloured pictorial illustrations?
I think it depends on the audience you're looking at. Children probably prefer his coloured picture books, but the more serious aficionados of illustration really admire his black and white work. Not just the half-tone pictures like the body snatchers, but also his earlier line drawings. And he was unusual in that he could draw something that was precise to the character he was portraying without being a precise, heavy line. He captures movement, attitude, personality in the line drawings he makes.
What is it about Charles Keeping's work that means it's endured in people's minds over time?
I think it's the quality of the drawing, the fact that he portrays scenes in a different way from almost any other illustrator. And as I said, his ability to capture nuances of personality, movement, line, without labouring the point.
Rosemary Sutcliffe, Henry Treece and Leon Garfield all worked with Charles Keeping as illustrator to their books. Which of these illustrations are now the best known or most appreciated?
I suppose with the lapse of time it's Leon Garfield and Edward Blishen who worked with him who are best remembered. Although Rosemary Sutcliffe remains in print with Charles Keeping's illustrations. There are also, of course, most importantly, the books that Charles wrote and illustrated, and a number of those are still in print.
Yeah, so he wrote some of his own books, and those are still in print?
But certainly a number of the later ones are things like Beowulf, which he did work with someone who'd adapted the text, but it's primarily his work. The Highwayman, he took Alfred Noy's poem and made it his own through a series of wonderful illustrations, which are still very popular.
Charles Keeping was for some time institutionalised for depression, and his pictures often seem macabre, even though they were drawn for children. What is it about this macabre element that draws children?
Oh, I mean, certainly young boys, and I think young girls as well, love something that frightens them a little bit, but they still know is safe.
Right. He was born in Lambeth and grew up in Kennington. How much of these London associations make him particularly interesting to those in London, would you say?
He was born in Lambeth, but a true Cockney. He kind of defies the thing about Bow Bells and all that. He was a Londoner through and through. He draws on the scenes of his childhood. He lived opposite some dray horse stables, which were multi-storey stables with ramps leading up, and that appears in his work. He loves drawing brickwork as a background for some of his scenes. No, he was a true Londoner.
Which would you say are the iconic illustrations of Charles Keeping that we're showing at the museum in this exhibition?
There are wonderful pictures. Some lithographs were made from his illustrations from The God Beneath the Sea and The Golden Shadow, and these are extremely powerful. We've got 4 of those. We've got a couple of illustrations from The Highwayman, a couple from Beowulf, 3 from The Lady of Shalott, as well as examples of his very early drawings where he was breaking the mould for children's book illustration. Instead of doing full pages or headings, he was making marginal drawings or drawings that ran across 2 pages. Things that he did for Rosemary Sutcliffe and Henry Treece.
So in a way it was the way he positioned his illustrations that was as innovative as the illustrations themselves.
Yeah, I think, and the format of them, and that's something he shares with Heath Robinson. I mean, they both rebelled against the kind of constraints of the printer and made their work fit into the text in novel ways. He had a fairly unconventional art school training in that he was in the Navy during the war. He came out of the Navy, couldn't get a grant, so worked as reading gas meters for the gas company in very poor districts of London, which I think has informed quite a lot of his work. And it took about 3 or 4 years for him to get a grant so that he could actually go full-time to art school.
So he was interested in also the social side. It reflected.
Yeah, I mean, his children's stories have actually been criticised for having too much social message in them. I think it's nonsense, but you know, people these days seem to think that people 7 or 8 years old don't actually understand that there are poor people and rich people, and the poor people suffer.
Good, thank you, Geoffrey. That was really interesting. Thank you very much.